Ready.
All right,
Yeah,
cool. I'm not pushing you. So, hey, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Data Architecture Virtual Chapter for PASS. Today we have Grant Fritchey. He was nice enough to give us an hour and a half of his time and present integrating Azure into your data platform. I'm Robert Canzonire, and if y'all want to email me, there's my contact. I'm Rob at SQL Tigers, or I have a website that I'm trying to rebuild. So please bear with me. It's not the best right now. I'm gonna get there. Some point it'll be a lot nicer. I'm trying to integrate a lot of features into it. So let's go to the next slide. This is a big deal here. So July 17th, the price of PASS really goes up quite a bit. And if you want to go to PASS, you can use this special code and save you a lot of money. Basically, if you're a first timer, if you don't mind, and you use my code, just put first timer, and I believe we'll get some sort of gift cards we can give away or something. And if we get a lot of people using the code, I think we can give away a session or something. And so please use the code. It'll help our chapter, and I really appreciate it. So upcoming virtual chapter meetings. So here's kind of a list of some of the upcoming meetings. You can see Excel BI and in-memory. They have a lot of meetings upcoming. So you can sign up at PASS and register and go to these webinars. They're free, doesn't cost anything. Let's go to the next page here. And some great topics with great people, giving them. So let's keep moving on. So upcoming SQL Saturdays. So here's some upcoming SQL Saturdays. They're international. They're and in America, North America. But one I want to point out is August the 6th. It's right here in Baton Rouge where I live. I'm going to actually get to speak, and my topic is optimizing backups and restores. And it's kind of a cool thing I had to do here at work, and I documented it where I took a backup that ran at 273 minutes, and I got it down to 17 minutes. And if you're in Baton Rouge and you want to see some of the techniques I used to make this thing happen and find bottlenecks, I'm going to present that. There's a lot of little tricks and tips to backing up and restoring. I don't know if everyone knows, so I'll be glad to share it and maybe I'll present it on the virtual chapter at some point if people want to see it. So
that sounded really good when we were talking about it before the session started. So
well, thank you, Grant.
People should go.
Well, if I present it, I'll invite you. Maybe you want to come. That'd be wonderful if you come or whatever. Anyway, thank you, Grant, for coming to our session here today. So I'm going to change it over to you.
Okay, sure.
So
show my screen. All right, thanks, guys. Apologies for a couple of things. One, my VM died right when we were getting set up, so it's rebooting right now. It should be back online, and hopefully all the demos will work. If not, we'll fake our way through a couple of them. Two, I've got some sort of summertime cold going on, so I might sound weirder than I normally do, and I apologize for that. Anyway, let's talk about integrating Azure into your data platform. My name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Redgate Software. And if you've got questions after today, Azure related, Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, integration into VMs, all that kind of fun stuff, I would love to hear it. I want to help you out. This is my contact information. Please, please, please get in touch. I live off questions. Can't do without them. So if you've got something coming up, let me know. Also, if you've got questions during this session on anything that I'm covering, please don't hesitate to send it in to Robert there, and he'll interrupt and ask me the question if it's pertinent. Okay, if it's just like the microphone's not working or something, he'll also let me know that. Thanks. So here's what we're going to talk about. Kind of get into what is Azure a little bit. We're not going to spend a lot of time there. Where does Azure fit? We're going to talk about, and then managing the environment. We're going to talk about some too. And so we're just going to go over this stuff. We're not going to spend a lot of time on what Azure is, but somewhat. So this is Azure, and it's pretty easy to understand. It's just the services all listed out. And You can't really see that, right? It's kind of hard to read. Is everybody reaching for zoom in on their laptops or cursing my name? Yeah, it's actually Azure's kind of big. So we could, maybe look at this view of it. And these are marketing slides from Microsoft. Um, Even this one's a little out of date, and it still doesn't really narrow it down that much. Azure's huge. I mean, that's the one thing you can say about it. It's gigantic. There's a lot going on. There's a lot there, and there's a lot to talk about. But if we just stay focused inside the data platform, things are a little bit easier. Inside the data platform, and even this slide's actually not quite complete, because it does not list, yeah, that's right, it doesn't list Azure SQL Data Warehouse, which is extremely important. It does have the PDW, but it doesn't show the other stuff. So here's the deal. We've got now with Microsoft a data platform. It's not simply SQL Server anymore. We're not just talking, SQL Server. Nowadays we have to start talking data platform, because there's at no point, and we're going to talk about some of the workloads and stuff that are going to lead to you to a hybrid environment, but at no point are you going to be looking at the isolated environment anymore. We are in a wired world. Everything or lots of things are going onto the internet, whether they belong there or not, they're going. And you need to take that into account as you build out your systems. So yes, we've got traditional, non-virtualized, sitting on big hard iron SQL Server. That goes on. There is the PDW appliance. That's absolutely part of what's going on. And you got SQL Server running locally inside what they call a private cloud, what we used to call virtual machines. And yeah, that's all still there. None of that changes. But you're going to add to that. It's not that you're replacing it. Now, there might be some people who do. You might be in a completely greenfield, brand spanking new environment, and frankly, why would you go out and buy hardware if you didn't have to? It's much better to use these services if you can. But most of us are not in a green field. Most of us are, in a pretty brown field. We've got existing structures, existing infrastructure, existing stuff going on, in addition to which we wish to add things. And that's where the cloud comes in. And the beauty of the cloud is that there's a lot there. The offering is huge, it is broad, and it's also very familiar. It's the same kind of stuff we're used to doing. It's just doing it in a slightly different place. Now the workloads we're talking about, again, bringing it back around, the greenfield is easy. It's an easy thing to say. You've got a brand new system, and you're thinking like, well, hang on. This is all going to be online. This is all going to be done through web pages and whatnot. Why on earth would we, go out and buy a server and set all that stuff up just to serve it out there, back out to the cloud again? Why don't we just set it up on the cloud to start with? And that's easy. That's a very easy decision to make. You're not talking about migrations. We're not talking about, massive data moves or all kinds of adjustments to how we do it, connection strings, all this crazy stuff that could come up. It's brand new, so it's easy. Fine. Let's not talk about that, because that is actually the easier one to get over. Let's talk about other stuff. What if you've got really large-scale on-demand stuff? The classic example is that you're selling some kind of product and you manage to land an ad at the Super Bowl. Now, your normal web page hits and the normal hits against your database, it's a couple of thousand an hour maybe, couple of hundred an hour probably. But you're going to be hitting, hundreds of thousands in an hour, and you need to scale immediately. And then you don't want to scale anymore. You don't need to maintain that over time as much as you're hoping that the Super Bowl ad is going to give your business a shot in the arm. It's not necessarily going to maintain at that level. It's going to be a much lower level. So you've got this on-demand scale up, scale down situation where you only want to use such stuff sometimes. Well, that's where the cloud becomes very, very exciting, because you can only pay for what you use and only use what you need, not have to go out and buy 10,000 servers to satisfy this instant load and then try to figure out how to offload 9,000 of them again. that's nuts. But with Azure, you can spin this stuff, spin it back down, and keep going. If you're a small shop and you've got big scale needs, for example, you want to have global spread on your data, even though there's only 30 or 40 of you. You want to have live failover. You want to have geocentric storage, off-site storage. You want to have multiple locations for your stuff. You want to treat your systems the way the big giant enterprises treat their systems. The cloud is again extremely attractive for you because for a very limited price point, you can set up systems that are going to behave the way the big guys set up systems. If you're in a big company, a global company, and you're going to have distributed systems, you're not in a situation where you want to have to go out and buy some server farm in China and another server farm in India and another server farm in Australia and yet another server farm in Africa and yet another server farm someplace in Europe and another one in Russia, more in South America. You need to be able to leverage existing structures. Well, that's where Azure and the cloud come in and make things possible for you. You can piggyback your existing structure into an extended Azure structure. And from there, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, just think of whatever, kind of crazy combination you might want to do based on the tooling that we have, and you can go with it. So these workloads, all of these workloads are going to lead you towards, if not a pure cloud offering, certainly a hybrid offering. And so SQL Server's our baby. Now, SQL Server has got some new functionality that already directly integrates with the cloud. So we're not talking, necessarily going out to Azure functionality. We're just talking SQL Server itself and the way SQL Server itself can connect up to the cloud. One of the very first things is, and it's introduced in SQL Server 2014, although there is a tool available for 2012 and earlier from Microsoft that allows you to directly back up to Azure Blob Storage. So if you're in that situation where you do want to have off-site backups, this is a great way to get it done. You can back up directly to that blob storage. Now you may not want to. Let me paraphrase this. As much as this is useful, as much as this is good, there are actually reasons against it. The backup to the cloud is going to be a slower backup because you're limited by the bandwidth, the pipe you have out to the internet. So frequently when I do this, and I actually do this with some of the databases I have under my management, is I back up locally and then I copy them out to Azure Storage. And that works too. So taking advantage of Azure Storage, which is cheap, by the way, very cheap, but good, it allows you to have that secondary offsite backups, and you can do it in 2 steps, backup locally and copy. We also have in 2016, we have this new thing called Stretch Table. Stretch Table, I'm not so sure of. I'll be completely blunt about it. It is a cool technology. It is wild to watch. I'm just not 100% sure I would actually want to maintain it. Now what it entails is you can take a table and say partition it, probably by date is going to be the one thing, and say, you know what, we've got extremely active 6 months worth of data or 3 months worth of data. Pick your date. It could be a month worth of data or a week. It's very active. Lots and lots of queries run against it, possible inserts, possible updates. But then we have some very inactive data. This stuff never gets updated. It's 2, 3, 5 years old, but we need to maintain it and we need to keep it online and available for occasional queries. Great. Stretch Table is your buddy. That will allow you to store this data out on the cloud as a secondary storage, thereby making your local storage smaller, faster, more lean, more agile, all things good, great, and wonderful. But it adds to backups, it adds to restores, there's all kinds of additional overhead in maintaining this data. It's not just a net win instantly out of the gate. So I'm hesitant, but it's there. It is one of those integration points that you should at least consider. You know, I'm not 100% sold on it. Now, if you are a small company, or if you're a small group, or better still, if you're a consultant working with small companies and small groups, and you want to set up backups for these guys, but you don't want to have to sweat how often the backups are occurring, where the backups are occurring, and how to maintain the storage for the backups, then you might want to take a look at Managed Backup. Again, this was introduced in 2014 and is again available in 2016, and it lets you more or less just turn on backups database by database. You get to pick and choose which databases go, and it will back them up to Azure storage on its own schedule. And it does log backups. So it is transactionally going to be able to come back to a point in time on recovery. So this is a great way, again, if you're a small company or if you're consulting for small companies and you want to set up backups, it's fantastic. And finally, there's Azure Storage. And I know I recognize I've already said back up to blobs or move to blobs, stretch tables out to there, but Azure Storage is actually a way, and again, I'm not 100% sold on this one, but it's still a cool technology, to define Azure as one of your file groups and put tables or indexes onto Azure instead of storing them locally. Yeah, I can imagine the looks on your faces right now, a lot of the DBAs, and I don't disagree. However, again, there is an attractiveness to it. It is, a way to offload, to change your I/O subsystem behaviors by moving stuff that isn't necessarily high volume or is older or is, it doesn't matter that it's slower. You can move it off to an offsite storage. Other stuff that we have, and this is where things start to get really exciting. Availability groups. If you're a big company, you've got lots and lots of large servers, and you've set up availability group, always on clusters, and you've got these things all configured, and that's great. If you're a smaller company, you might want to have the ability to have an availability group, but you don't want to have to go and buy all these extra servers. Fine. Spin up virtual machines out on Azure, and you can set up your availability group to fail over. SQL Server 2012, 2014, 2016 can all go to out to Azure VMs. So you don't have to have the machines locally to set these things up. You can integrate your network through a VPN out to Azure so that all of this stuff is acting as if it's completely within your own network. You can also set up replication for 2012, 24, 2016 out to Azure. I'm not crazy about replication. It doesn't get enough love from Microsoft to make it that attractive as a mechanism for data protection or offsite reporting, that kind of stuff. It's just there's just too many things fail on it for it to work well. However, it is an option, so it's worth bringing up. Now, the mirroring, the other hand, that's pretty exciting stuff. If you are in 2012, 2014, 2016, you can use mirroring and go out to the Azure VMs and use them again, treat them exactly the same way as you treat local VMs or local server instances, as long as you set up the VPN out to them and you can connect up any other way you like. And so this is very exciting stuff, because if you're not quite into the availability group thing, although now with 2016, the fact that Standard Edition is going to have it, there's a lot of reasons to move away from mirroring and just move to availability groups. But if you're still doing mirroring, we can do it out to Azure as well. Okay, so this would be the point at which I would do a demo. We're going to see if we can. I'll be completely honest, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see, where is it? Well, it looks like this workstation is online. Let's see if we can connect to it. Oh, that's a good sign. All right. cool. It fired up and everything. Give me 1 second. We're going to fire up Management Studio. Right now I'm running SQL Server 2016, and I'm also running the new Management Studio for those who are interested. And I don't need those files. Again, apologies for not having this set up. I did try to set it up, but it all crashed and burned like half an hour, and right before, I was getting everything ready well ahead of time, which is what you're supposed to do, and I had one of those hiccups. I think there's something wrong with one of my disk drives. I'm going to have to be looking into that after today. Okay, cool. Let's find the right file. Again, give me a second. Do I have it there? No, so we'll have to browse. And we are integrating Azure. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Azure Hybrid. That's it. Cool. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. And hide this. Okay, so back up to URL. One of the first things you're going to have to do with you back up to URL is you are going to have to set up a credential. Now there's multiple different types of credentials that you're going to have to set up within your systems for managing these different aspects of these connections to Azure. This is the first type of credential that we're seeing. So what we're seeing is create credential, Azure Hybrid with identity, and you define the identity and the secret. And the secret, of course, is a password. This is something that you set up. You will maintain this with your Azure system. And then after that you've got this set up, then all you have to do is back up database, set up the name to URL. And with the credential, which is the credential you set up before. By the way, my password is not XXXYYY, just so you know. It is this simple. You make that connection. You have to set up the URL, and so Azure vmscary.blob.core.windows.net is my Azure system. SQL BU, SQL Backup, is Azure Storage, and then adw.back is just the database backup. Give me a second here. We're going to connect up to the portal again. And again, I do apologize that I didn't have this set up for you. I did try. But these things go wrong occasionally. Computers being what they are. And hey, if they all worked right, most of us wouldn't have jobs. So it's kind of a good thing that they screw up occasionally. Let me also bring up Zoom It. Normally this is all set up before you guys get here, so it looks like I know what I'm doing. All right, so let's get to all resources. Oh, it's connected to the wrong thing. Hang on. I've got multiple accounts, and so they all have slightly different access. There we go. Go to all resources. Or shortcut. Let's just go through here. There we go. So I've got another storage set up, GF Dojo storage, and this is where you would go in. This is where you would go in to be able to set up your blobs, your files, tables, and queues, but mainly what we're talking about here are blobs. You go to the blobs, it's going to open up another blade. I said it's going to open up another blade. There it goes. By the way, Azure, remember, is always dependent upon your pipe going through. So right now my pipe is actually getting a little bit of a workout because I'm showing you guys my video, the sound, and also we're making these calls out to Azure as we speak. And as someone else pointed out a long time ago, the cloud is just someone else's computer. So we're waiting on someone else's computer at the moment. All right, we're going to back out of this for the moment because I've just got to show you a couple other scripts. Now, StretchDB is pretty easy. Again, go to the database, set up remote data archive, and reconfigure. No reboot necessary. You can connect right up. Then we're going to create a master key encryption by password, and we're going to create a database scoped credential. So this is our second type of credential. We're going to call it Azure Stretch with identity Azure VM Scary, and again, my little secret. And then we're going to alter our database. We alter the database and set remote archive on, define a server for it to go to. I'm going to say my Azure server database.windows.net, and then pass in that credential that we just created. And then from there, it's altering a table. So I alter the table person.person, set remote data archive equals on, and then put in a filter predicate. And the filter predicate just has to be a value or a function, and the preferred mechanism is a scalar function that defines how old the data should be, 30 days, 90 days, a year, whatever it is that you've defined for how you're going to determine which data gets moved off. You could just go for identity values or something like that, but to me that sounds like a sketchy approach. It would probably in general works better with date ranges, that kind of thing, so that you know the stuff that you're moving out is older, not newer, if that makes sense. And then Azure storage is actually really simple. First, again, we're going to define an access signature. Like I said, multiple different kinds of credentials that we're going to create. And why doesn't Microsoft just create a single mechanism for connecting up? Good question. You should ask Microsoft. I don't know. It's different ones that require different setups. Now, in this case, I'm going to create a credential defined as a SQL file store credential with the identity, give it a name, and a secret, which of course is my password. From there, I'm going to create the database with data and log files in Azure Container, and it's alter database, add file, Azure file, and then the file name, again, is going out to someplace, SQL file store, my Azure SQL file store. Let's see if this is opened up by now. Okay, no container set up in that particular account. That's fine. You can see here. But we can add a container. I was going to say we can add a container in this account. This is slightly different. Go on. There we go. So I can add that container SQL backup. I can determine how I want to have it, whether it's private blob or a container. In this case, we're going to make it a container, and then we just have to save it. And now that creates a container. So this is all easy stuff. Now I'm using a GUI here just for the demo purposes, but normally what I would be doing is running some PowerShell, and I'm going to open up a little bit of PowerShell here a little bit later for some of the other demos. Now, are there any questions on the core connections between Azure and SQL Server? Does anything come up in the question window? I don't have it open in front of me, so.
Well, I know it's kind of not, well, they're just asking about the scripts.
That's okay. Go for it.
If you're going to share the script, some of the scripts. And
will I share these scripts?
Yeah.
I absolutely can share these scripts, although I don't know how useful they'll be since they're not going to connect you up to anything.
And
you're going to have to
yeah.
You're going to have to go through and do all the there's a lot of work you're going to have to go through to make them work. Okay.
And someone's asking like a little bit about the differences about the Azure versus the normal SQL Server I guess it'd be non-Azure versus Azure, just so.
Okay, so the stuff I went through just now is all pure SQL Server taking advantage of Azure. We haven't stepped out of pure SQL Server yet, and I'm not going to just yet. We're going to keep going. It took a time. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're going to keep going. Let me get to the next bit, and that's still going to be pure SQL Server too. But we're going to get to the places where we're talking differences. Okay, I promise. All right, we'll keep going. So here's another thing that we could talk about. especially when we're talking about the whole concept of multiple environments, a hybrid environment, using Azure, not moving to Azure, but using Azure. So we have the ability to use Azure Active Directory. You can use this for your VMs, you can use this for your services, and you can use this for Azure SQL Database and SQL Data Warehouse. All you have to do is set up a virtual network with federation, and then you'll be able to log in using your local logins, corp.blah, blah, 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 and connect up to Azure and then manage your Azure systems as if they were local. And so what this allows you to do is this is how you begin to set up, say, a failover to these machines. Because all you really have to do is set up the network so that you can connect up to the machines, and once you're connected to the machines, they're just another virtual machine inside your network. And then once it's another machine inside your network, you get to do whatever you want with it, just as you do with your virtual machines now. I mean, granted, your VM guys may want to control that, and you may have that same kind of VM guy controlling your Azure access, but you know what I mean. Your internals and your structures as far as setting up databases, availability groups, mirroring, all that stuff, all goes through this network that you set up. And it's actually, if I can do it, it ain't that hard. Let's switch back over. Nope, to there. Now I don't think, again, I didn't get the chance to set up the way I wanted to beforehand. So let's go to all resources. I'm not sure if this is the account that has the virtual network set up or not. Give me 1 second, and bear with me, I do apologize. That machine crashing definitely didn't start my day well. Give it just a second. Oh, cool. I have set up Active Directory here. Here we go. Now the fun thing is about some of the Active Directory controls, if you're doing it all through PowerShell, it's all just going to work. Some of the Active Directory work, some of it, is not going to work through this new portal. There's an old portal that you can go to, and you may want to take a look at that. In some instances, for the GUI. Let's go. Come on, open up. Here it comes. There we go. Okay, cool. Oh, so that's Active Directory test VM. Here's the Active Directory test. No, that's the VM. Oh no, it was the VM. Now we're on the network. Give it a second. Again, sorry about that. So you can come in here and you can make the configuration. You're going to basically set up inbound security rules, outbound security rules, and a network interface to make the connection to your local network. And it's all really straightforward. It's not hard. There's documentation online for how to do it. I'm not going to teach it today. I just kind of want to give you guys the overview on the integration aspects of it. And so that's loading really slowly again. All right, let's keep going. All right, so Azure Virtual Machines. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because it's just a VM. If anybody's working with VMs locally, and I'm pretty sure almost everyone is, this is a VM. So what is it? It's SQL Server running inside of Windows. If you have any experience with SQL Server running inside of Windows, that's what this is. There's nothing tricky about it. There's nothing special about it. It's just hosted in a slightly different location. You will have to set up that networking connection if you want to integrate it directly into your network. But that's pretty trivial, and it's not that hard. Pretty easy to do. Your network guys are going to be able to sign off on it. It's fully in support of most government institutions, because Microsoft wants the money from the government just as much as anyone else does. It's supportive of healthcare. You can get all hooked into, but it's just virtual machines. So then mirroring, replication, backup, restore, all part of your disaster recovery that you have locally, you can make VMs a part of it onto Azure. I'm not going to spend any time on this because if you already know virtual machines, that's what they are. They are creatable through Hyper-V, through PowerShell. It acts just like Hyper-V. It is basically Hyper-V that you're accessing. And it's virtual machines. So I mean, it's not a whole lot else to say about it beyond the fact that you can access these and set them up. Now, here's where things get different. Talking about a hybrid environment, we have available to us Azure SQL Database. Now, in Azure SQL Database, we can set up Elastic Query. Now, Elastic Query allows us to run queries from within Azure out to other resources, such as Hadoop or flat files stored out in Azure Storage, something like that. Also, we can set up replication from 2012 or better, and specifically 2012 SP2 Cumulative Update 8. So SP2 CU8 for 2012 can replicate out to Azure SQL Database. Also, 2014 has 2014 Cumulative Update 10 or SP1 Cumulative Update 23, and then 2016 supports it out of the gate. You are going to set that up. Now, it is subscriber-only replication. This cannot be a publisher, and it certainly can't be a distributor. So you can set that stuff up. The HADR capabilities, they're not the same, but Azure SQL Database has its own capabilities, so they are very, very different. And I think we'll cover, trying to remember if I cover those now or later. Yeah, let's cover those now. So, okay, so Azure SQL DB. Now this is where things get different. It has a slightly different footprint than SQL Server. And this is where things get fun. Now first off, where is it? There it is. I knew I had it. Zoom in again so you guys can see what I'm doing. I've selected SQL servers. And once this loads, which is not going to do in a real hurry, I have multiple, quote, servers, unquote, which are Azure SQL servers. These are not servers. These are not virtual machines, and these are not literal servers. These are containers is the best way to describe it. These are containers for how you manage your Azure SQL databases. So I've got 3 different containers. That VA6JWB that you see there, that is a very, very old Azure 1.0 or Azure 2.0, I think, server that I set up for the Boy Scouts for something I'm doing for them. But back in those days, you could not pick your server name. But nowadays, you totally can. It's all configurable. And what we've got is we've got these servers set up. Now, the servers have databases inside them. So if I click on a server, the server is going to have a set of properties, and then inside that server is, one or more databases. These servers, you can set up auditing. You can set up directory admin, Active Directory administration through these servers, and then we've got multiple tests. Now, right now, what I've got in this server is a SQL data warehouse thing. That I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I don't want to drill down on it just yet. Let's go to Azure Training. It's going to have a regular Azure database. This has been slower than normal today, just so you know. Okay, cool. Now this is where things get a little bit fun. Now I've got DB1, DB2 set up, multiple things. Database pools I don't currently have set up. Database pools are a management mechanism so that you can define a set of, basically, consider it, like a bucket of water. you can take, it holds this much resources, it holds this many DTUs, which are database transaction units, and you can set up databases of such and such a size and so many DTUs until the bucket of water is gone. And that way it's a flat fee of paying for the bucket of water as opposed to paying for each individual database. It's primarily a mechanism for companies, not so much for DBAs. It's so that companies can say, well, we want to know what our fee is going to be every month. We don't want it to vary month by month. Even though we're paying less, we don't want to do that. We want to know exactly how much we're laying out. Fine, we can make it so you pay out exactly this much, but you're going to pay more. And Microsoft doesn't mind you paying more, so off you go. But funny enough, companies prefer, it's like if I'm going to pay $10 a month and I know I'm going to pay $10 a month, I'd rather have that so I can budget $10 a month. And even though I could have paid $7 this month, $8 next month, $9 the month after that, $6 the month after that, because it's going up and down, it makes my management life hell. So I want to make sure that it's just all one thing, so I'll pay $10 a month and be covered. Seems crazy to me, but I don't understand management sometimes. That's basically what pools do. And let's see, let's connect up to one. I did move up my own copy of AdventureWorks onto SQL Database. And what I want to get to is the whole DR thing, because the difference between this and SQL Server is that this is a database under management. So you need to remember that as a database as a service. It's not SQL Server as you know it. So what's that mean? Queries against tables, inserts, updates, deletes, triggers, all that fun stuff, views, store procedures, everything within the database is all still there. With one exception. The data type variant has not yet been moved over. I hope it never gets moved over, but that's just my own opinion. Other than that, this is a database. It is a SQL Server database as far as you are concerned. It behaves like a SQL Server database. However, server level things, agent, we don't have one. Other stuff, profiler, we do not have. Extended events, we do. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that just doesn't quite work exactly the same way because it is not a SQL Server instance. It is only a SQL Server database. Remember that and it will make your life easy. But that is the primary difference. Server level things that you're used to doing, like setting up a login, you would not do here. Instead, you can, but you still do set up local users. You still have security. All that kind of stuff is still there, but it's just managed differently. It's not a server with databases. It is a database as a service. So that's the key point. The main thing I wanted to get to here is this. High availability geo-replication. I can have this automatically geo-replicated to multiple locations. So I can ensure that my database, which you can see by the little blue arrow, is located on the east coast of the United States. I can set it up so it gets replicated out here or over to Japan or down to South America. I can set it up however I need to. Now the recommended is going over to central US. I don't know, that whole caldera underneath the park out there makes me nervous. So I'm going to pick, Brazil. I feel better about that one. So I can set this up so it's automatically going out there. Once it's picked, I get to set up some other stuff. So I'm going to create a secondary database. I'm going to set up the secondary type. I'm going to configure the target server because right now I don't have one. And if I were operating within database pools, which I am not, I would have to configure the pool as well. The whole reason I'm showing you this is because this is part of your DR scenario. You are not limited by virtue of the fact that you've paid for this one database on the East Coast of the US. You can make sure that this database is accessible elsewhere. And yes, that secondary database can be readable. And you can have multiple secondaries depending on the service tier. In other words, however much you want to pay, you can get service any way you like it. Microsoft's more than willing to do what you want, any way you want. All right, let's keep going just a little bit. DocumentDB. It's cool. It's great. It's documents in a database. It's JSON. You can do a local DB for reporting against this stuff if you want. You can connect up to a VM for reporting against it, or you're going to be able to do Polybase at some point against DocumentDB. I'm not going to demo DocumentDB. It's not something I'm comfortable with yet. I'm still just starting to learn it, but it is JSON. If you're a JSON freak, this is a good database for you, and we'll keep going. This, I believe, is a game changer. Azure SQL Data Warehouse is going to rearrange the way things are done inside of SQL Server, inside of Azure. I think it's going to change people's lives, the way they manage their jobs, the way they get things done. Why is that? This is a democratization of the APS, the Analytics Platform System, also formerly known as the Performance Data Warehouse. That was a gigantic appliance. It's still there. You can still buy it, but it's an appliance that you have to purchase to learn, let alone implement. This is a democratization of that. This is Azure SQL Database running underneath, but on top of it, it is Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and it is running, you know, PSQL, or whatever they call it, DSQL. There is DSQL to manage the things, but this is going to give you massive parallel mechanisms. So you can do loads, you can do moves, you can do data manipulation, all through this massive parallel system, and you can turn it on, do the work you need, and then turn it back off. Say spit it out to another Azure SQL Database storage, or even back down to your local machine after you're done the parallel processing that you need done. This supports Polybase, which means that you can query other resources directly from within this database. And it's not the same as linked servers. It's very, very different. It's harder and easier, depending on how you want to talk about it. And it supports Azure Data Factory, which is another Azure tool for doing data migrations and data moves. And it works directly with Power BI, which is a great way to pull the data out of here for doing stuff. But the fact that we've got now a very affordable parallel data warehouse mechanism that all of us can access, not just those who have, you know, I forget how many millions of dollars it was to buy that appliance. There weren't that many of them sold, frankly, but this is going to revolutionize the way things are done because of all that it's capable. Let's see. I'm going to skip that one for the moment. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we're definitely skipping that one. Ooh, that slide moved. So, additional data platform mechanisms. There is HD Insight and Hadoop, which is, you know, HD Insight's their Hadoop cluster. There's all the third-party database systems, Oracle, Postgres, more. You've got machine learning, you've got Cortana, all of it built into the data platform, all of it on Azure, all of it available immediately if you want to use it. It's not necessarily a good thing, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not making any questions on it at all. I like it all, actually. I'm quite excited to have it available. I'm starting to learn machine learning myself, although I'm never going to be a data scientist. It's way too hard and I'm way too old. But all of this stuff is available, it is all there, and it all integrates directly with the things that we've already talked about. And again, because you can set up these virtual networks, you can integrate it directly with your local machines. This is the important bit, management of these hybrid systems. If you're looking at the whole concept of an application-centric system where you're looking at the application as the central mechanism for your management, this is going to work fairly well for you. You can get into, I'm sorry, what am I saying? There are applications out there that will do the management for you. They are, some of them are better than others, but they're not all great, and the issue that you're going to hit is connections out to Azure is hard. So you want ones that are going to run from within Azure. Those are the better ones. So cloud-centric is the way to go. The portal is going to allow you to do this. There are also third-party management mechanisms, monitoring mechanisms. Sorry, we're talking monitoring, not management. Virtual machines, remember those are basically VMs. So the monitoring and stuff is all going to be the same as before. You can monitor them through the portal, or there are going to be third-party stuff, but you want to make sure that you are going from the cloud, not to the cloud, for this type of monitoring. And then Azure SQL Database and Azure ADW has got built-in monitoring. And then there are third-party tools coming out with monitoring for those as well. Management all comes down to the portal and PowerShell. Now you've already seen some of the portal. I'm going to show you just a little bit more to show you some of the monitoring stuff, and then I'm going to show you a couple of PowerShell scripts. Azure Resource Management is the way to go, and then Azure Operational Insights, I just found out about this one today. Azure Operational Insights is a secondary PowerShell thing. I didn't find out about today. I found out about a couple weeks ago. But it's another thing through PowerShell that shows you management system of your systems. So let's take a look at PowerShell and what's going on with that. We got 7 minutes left. I wanted to make sure I got to the PowerShell and to the monitoring. So we're already here. Let's take a look at monitoring. Let's go back to here. No, let's go from here. We can, hey, wouldn't you like to set up alerts? Yeah, I know my unsafe things are going to be thrown away. Wouldn't you like to set up alerts? Everybody likes alerts. Well, no problem. It's all built in. We can set up alerts. I know I haven't created any alert rules. I want to add one. And you'll notice the portal behaves pretty much the same way wherever you go. You're opening a blade, you fill in some information, you keep going. So this is the fun bit. So the resource we're serving is we're going to go against our database, and we'll give it a name, XXX. Here's the bit that I'm really excited about. This is what you can monitor built in directly. DTU limit, database transaction units, which this is the measure of performance within Azure SQL Database. So if you're above a certain DTU percentage, if you hit the DTU limit, and by the way, there are service tiers, and you pay for whatever limit you want to pay for, and then off you go. But that's all going to matter, and you set those things up. If you're using log IO, data IO, total database size, percentages, greater than, less than, set a threshold, set a period for which you want to know how often this has been happening, and you can capture all of this and send it back to yourself as an alert. We can also look at where is it? Performance. Yes, I know, throwing it away. Give us a second. Again, these load times get weird. We can see the activity, we can see tuning activity, we can see recommendations, we can see the queries that are coming in. You'll notice the overall DTU load right now is very, very low. Why? Because I'm doing almost nothing on this system currently. This is just a test system. But we can add to these. We can add sections. We can add additional tiles. And these tiles are all different metrics for our monitoring. So clicking on this allows us to modify what's here and make changes so that we can have a different view into this data any way we want to. Now I'm going to zoom back out because I've only got a couple minutes left, and I really, really want to show you the PowerShell. And it wasn't loaded either because the machine crashed. It definitely slowed me down today. Let's see. So resource management setup, you're going to get publishing setting files, import the publishing setting files, and then select a subscription. Doing this is the way you normally set up your PowerShell connections, and once you've got this set up, then you can run PowerShell from my machine out to my Azure stuff pretty much any way I want to. and from there, it's just nothing but fun. Let's say we want to create an Azure SQL database, Azure SQL Data Warehouse. It's pretty easy. New RM SQL database, Azure new RM, suspend it, remove it. I can start it, stop it, set up whatever I want through these things, give it the server name, give it a database name, and fire it all off, completely manage it all through PowerShell. Oh, and further, let me just show you this real quick. I know we're just almost out of time, so I want to make sure that I can also connect up to my Azure databases directly, and that's a bad login. I keep trying to get it to remember this login, but it always wants to remember the other one. Excellent. So now I'm actually connected up to Azure SQL Database through here. Now I can connect up through here too. Let's go ahead and do that just so you guys can see that. See, look at that. No matter what I do, it always remembers the other one. I should just fix that other login and just use that instead. Come on, baby. There it goes. And so you notice it looks very, very different. I don't have all this stuff. Why? Because I'm not connected to a server. I'm only connected to a database. But once I'm inside the database, if anybody's looked at AdventureWorks ever in their lives or watched a demo, there it is. It's AdventureWorks. Same old stuff, everything you're used to seeing. Whew, okay, cool. That was a little bit of PowerShell, a little bit of SSMS. All right, so make sure you set up your hybrid network first. It's easy. Then set up your hybrid monitoring, then set up your hybrid management. Don't forget all the basics still apply. Backups are still a thing, although Azure SQL Database, the backups are done for you. And you still get recovery to a point in time. But all the stuff that you normally would do, statistics, maintenance, everything else, is all still going to have to get done here. There's nothing special about this. It is SQL Server that we're largely talking about here, except where we're not talking about SQL Server, like we're talking about DocumentDB or whatever. But while we're talking about SQL Server, it's the same basics apply, and that's what's important. Okay, cool. I want to put up my contact information, and we've got 2 whole minutes for questions. Awesome. We made it.
Hey, Grant. We have
Sorry,
the
delays with the delays with setting up the servers on the fly was unfortunate, because I would have been able to show a little bit more than we did.
We do have a few questions if you want to take them now.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. So one question is about the backups. Let me see. I saw it a second ago. It's just he wants to be clear. Do you use blob storage for all the data backups?
Okay, it depends. I'm a DBA. For most of my on-premises servers, no. What I do use the blob storage for is as a backup of my backup. It is off-site storage for my backup. I set up personally, I set up a PowerShell script that runs my backup, and then once my backup is complete locally, a copy out to Azure SQL Database, Azure Storage, to blob storage. And so I've got a copy of my full backups all out there. I don't bother with my transaction logs just because I'm in a situation where if we lost 24 hours of some of my data, it'd be no big deal. So, but once a day, the data is backed up as to off-site backup through Azure. Yes. Now, if would I do that? Would I use Azure SQL? Would I use Azure Backup to URL for all that? Myself, probably not. Could I see people who would? Yes. Do I see people who have? Yes. Is it a recommended approach? It depends. It gets sketchy there. I don't want to say yes, but I certainly don't want to say no.
Okay, here's another question. Does Azure SQL Data Warehouse come standard with Azure?
Okay, so you're not buying Azure. You buy the services on Azure. Let's switch over to here. When we look at Azure, we look at all the stuff that's over here, all the different things that I was bouncing around in. What's that doing? Oh, we're in the tile gallery. Duh. Let's get out of that. Come on. We look at all these things over here. Get us out of this. Oh, there. We look at all this stuff, and there. Just these are all the resources that I currently have on this system. I mean, on my Azure account. Each of these is individually picked, each of these is individually fired off, and each of these is individually paid for within my account. Now they're all collectively paid for, you know, I get a single bill, but this is all pick and choose what you want. Do you never ever want Azure SQL Data Warehouse? Cool, you never have to pay for it. Don't turn it on, it's no big deal. Is all you want is Azure SQL Data Warehouse? Great, go and set that up and nothing else. You get to pick and choose exactly what you're wanting. So it's not like it's not like SQL Server where you think, oh, well, I bought SQL Server so I get SSIS, SSRS, SSAS, and and SQL Server itself. No, it's not that way. This is pick and choose each individual thing you want and only pay for the thing that you purchase and only pay for it at the performance level that you want to pay for it at. So it's completely and utterly different in all possible ways, at least in that term. Any others?
Oh yeah, this next question kind of goes with that one. So they're asking about Windows. Is Windows the only OS platform available, or is Linux available also in Azure?
Oh, all kinds of stuff is available. Let's see, we've got, I can't see a darn thing. Virtual machines, right? Linux is available. Let's see, Dynamics, Remote App Batch Service. I mean, it's just really kind of, what are you looking for? Linux, I mean, all different kinds of Unix. Oracle is available through here. You know, I mean, I can't even begin. It's the number of different options there is just huge. I mean, all that's showing there is the featured stuff, but there's more. So, yes, there's more than just Windows available here.
Great. I have one more question I see here. It's about configuring the data files. So they're asking, they want something about configuring data files locally and log files. Wait, let me reread this. Can we configure the data files locally and the log files on Azure when we configure Azure? So it sounds like they want to split the data files, local, and log files on Azure.
Okay, so are we talking like a hybrid situation from your SQL Server instance, or are we talking a VM situation where you're running that on Azure, or are we talking Azure SQL Database? Let's answer all three questions real quick. On the local system and you're doing a hybrid out to Azure, can you set it up that way? You could. Logs is not what I would choose, frankly, but could you do it? Yes. Talking about the VMs, can you set up different drives for one for your data and one for your logs on the VMs? Yes, absolutely, except remember that the storage in that case is Azure storage. So you have to determine, and this is the fun bit, you get to determine what service level you pay for your storage. You could pay for very inexpensive and slow storage, or you can pay for very expensive and fast storage. So you get to make those choices. So you can set that up again within the VM. Azure SQL Database, no, you do not get to configure log and data storage at all. Setting up the log and data storage is a server function. It's not a database function. That's not allowed because you're talking databases under management. All you get to determine is how fast am I willing to pay for this storage, and that's what you get. And that answers that question.
Okay. This last one, I don't know if it's really a question or a statement, but they say they have an MSDN Premier, and they have an Azure setup, and and they're saying they just want to test the stretch database portion of it.
Sure.
I guess that's part of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. If you've got MSDN, depending on which level of MSDN, you have up to. Let me get it. I might get this wrong. So if I get it wrong, don't throw things at me. Up to $250 of free Azure time.
Wow.
Yeah, a month. So can you set up StretchDB to your MSDN account? Yes, I've done it. I do it. Matter of fact, half of what you saw today, most of what you saw today was on my MSDN account. I have other accounts. I have production accounts I can't let you see. But I have my MSDN account, and that's where I do most of my testing, most of my development, most of my training. I do it against my MSDN account. So can you set up StretchDB? Yes. Azure SQL Database? Yes. VMs? Yes. Applications? Yes. All of it, up to $250 a month. And that's capped. So you never have to worry that it's going to suddenly start charging you. It never will. It's great.
That sounds great. I'm going to try it. I have an account. I've never tried it, but
yeah, if you've got an MSDN account, set it up with connect it to Azure, and off you go.
I have a question personally.
Sure.
So can you integrate your current AD, your local, your business AD into Azure? So I noticed you're using a SQL Server account sometimes, but
sometimes I was.
Yeah.
I'm running out of my house, and I don't have AD set up here. I don't have a need for it. Can you set that up? Yes, you absolutely can. It's through setting up that hybrid network, though, because what you have to do is you do have to initially set up a Azure Active Directory, and then once that's set up, you federate your directory out to Azure, and then basically your directory's in control.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you. That was really for me.
Okay, cool.
Well, that's all the questions I have today.
Great.
So I'm going to pick a winner, and I'm going to get Kenny to pick a winner, and we're going to email y'all, and y'all going to win a prize because we can give a few prizes away. It's kind of nice because we're getting a sponsor. I didn't tell anyone this. I think the sponsor's coming on board next month, and they're giving us some money and some awards to give away occasionally, which is really kind of nice. And that's a lot to do with everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming to these webinars because we got a lot of people. Like today we have over 100 people show up. And
wow.
Yeah, and so we were lucky enough, PASS got us a sponsor. And we'll be announcing that, I think, next month when it's more finalized. But it's really exciting. So, I'm going to pick Caroline Jewell. So I'll be emailing you. Kenny, you pick a name. I can't hear you.
I'm going to pick Aubrey Poole.
Cool. So we'll be emailing y'all out, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. And Grant, thank you for presenting. I learned a lot.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Thanks everyone. What was the final count? Did you say? How many?
Well, I think we're over 100.
Okay.
Like somewhere over 100 today, which is really good.
Call it 101.
Yeah, we'll say 101. I don't know. But I'll forward you the count. And
okay, cool.
And if we have any other questions, if y'all want to send them to me or send them to Grant, there's his email right there. Please feel free, And Grant's been on a number of times, so thank you for coming once again.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. You guys are great.
All right, well, I'm going to shut it down, and I want to I do want to say one other thing really quick. We have a number of sessions upcoming, and it's going to be great because we have a great year lined up, and I look forward to seeing everybody at our next monthly session. Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.